We are live.
Let's go.
Yep.
Okay. Well, are we recording?
Yep.
Cool. Hello, everyone. And first of all, welcome to a very special episode of 𝗨𝘀𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. It's a special episode because it's our 50th episode, as Nick mentioned as well. So it's quite a big milestone for us. And in terms of some opening remarks, what's been happening over the last week, we have had a new GRTIQ episode, episode 53, in which 𝗨𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 𝗨𝗨𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is being interviewed. He works for Orbis and EdgeNode. I found this episode very interesting because 𝗨𝗀𝗃 is working on a decentralized social media, basically something similar to Twitter but decentralized, and he speaks a lot about how he sees users on this social media platform being in charge of their user data and being able to just take away their data whenever they're not happy with the service that's being provided by a company, in this case Orbis, if that was when that is an option. Then we also have had Zach Burns. He did an Ask Me Anything. And some of the things that he talks about that I thought were worth mentioning. So how the space has evolved since 2 years ago when he joined the space. Why query fees are so low right now. What he finds fulfilling about his career in the with the crypto and the graph protocol. And then he also gives us his elevator pitch for people that are not crypto native. So it can help you explain to your families why the graph protocol is important. Then we also have a new edition of this month in graph indexing, so the February 22 edition. Thank you, Payne, for writing that. This is mainly about NFTs use cases and how they're evolving, and how subgraph ownership is now possible with unique NFTs. There is a link for this and for Zach Burns' AMA in the agenda. So moving on to RepoWatch. In terms of major clients, we don't have any new releases for Geth. The last release has been Awesome version 1.10.16. For Aragon, we do have a new release. It mostly contains fixes, so a fix for support for storage override rights in ETH call, and then it also adds additional debug options. Additional debug options. It also adds a new transaction poke functionality for the transaction pool. What that means to user is that the user who do not see their local transaction propagated, even though Aragon logs show announcements and broadcast. So for those users, if local transaction is sent to the pool via ETH send-raw transaction, and it is not accepted, a transaction that exists in the pool gets re-announced and rebroadcasted. For Open Ethereum, no new releases, the last one being version 3.3.4. And then for Streaming Fast Get, no new releases, last one being Get version 10.16.dm. Moving on to the graph stack. For GraphNode, we haven't had any new releases. Last release was version 0.25.1, which was a pre-release. And in terms of some pull requests that are noteworthy, so pull request 3299, it's a new PR, and it has support for adding an IPFS URL via the IPFS flag for Graphnode run. Thank you for Stephanie sorry, I'm gonna not pronounce this correctly, but I'm gonna try. So thank you to 𝗨𝘀𝗀𝗳𝗂𝗟 𝗨𝘀𝗀𝗃. Thank you very much. I feel like I'm not gonna get it right, but
it's fine.
Pull request 3290. So a new pull request. This reduces the number of queries to update the subgraph deployment from what currently was 2 or 3 round trips to the DB to update the block pointer. So the 2-3 round trips were to update block pointer, entity count, and Firehouse cursor, and all of these are being merged into just one. And yeah, this looking forward to seeing this in. And thank you, David Luther, for adding this. Then we have pull request 3252 from last week. It's merged. That was about updating the built-in GraphQL, GraphIQL to use the latest version of GraphIQL. Then we have another new pull request that adds a Graphman fix block command that can be used to compare diff and print cached blocks against freshly obtained ones. And thank you, Thiago, for this. Then in terms of indexer service and agent, we have a new pre-release version 0.19.0. So first of all, please everyone, if you can, test it on testnet and give us any feedback. There are a lot of changes in this pre-release. A lot of them are ones that we've been speaking here about, but just some noteworthy ones. So indexer service, there's some rate limiting for indexer service endpoints, and in the agenda of IOH, I've added every single one endpoint and the rate limit. Then we have indexer agent logger improvements to add more explicit log messages and reduce some unnecessary noise. We have a new live metric added into indexer agent and indexer common that called monitor ETH balance that refreshes every 2 minutes for info of users' ETH balance. We also have made a lot of improvements on indexer rules, specifically where indexer rules are now applied instantly without the need of a user to restart indexer agent after setting a new rule. Then we talked a lot about batched voucher redemption for indexer agent, so that's in as well. In terms of contributors, thank you very much to Ford, Chris, Theo, and Yanis. They are existing contributors, and then we've also have Hope, Ottavio, and 𝗨𝗂𝗃𝗀. Thank you very much. So Hope, Ottavio, and 𝗨𝗃𝗀 are new contributors. Thank you everyone for making this release happen. A couple of pull requests noteworthy to mention. 367 has now been merged. That's using signal tokens instead of signal amount for minimal signal threshold in indexing rules. And a pull request 366 has now been merged. That adds a feature to configure allocation lifetime. And it also allows you to, so if you want to stop indexing a subgraph once it expires, use indexer CLI to set auto renewals to false via this pull request. That's all we have for RepoWash today. I'm gonna pass over to Adam if he is on, because he has a call for action.
Hey, yeah. Thanks, Anna. So this is just a request, and actually I've lost which is the channel to drop a link into. But it's just a request. Sorry.
I've dropped the link in there.
Okay, perfect. Yes, so this is just a request. So it's around sort of database locales. So we want to currently different indexes might be running their sort of graph node associated Postgres databases in different locales, and so we just wanted to get a sort of a bit of a straw poll to see what the sort of predominant locales were at the moment. This is around just some work we're looking into on the sort of query determinism side of things, but it should be super simple to work out what locale your database is running in. And I think Chris can drop the link to a very simple Google form where we just need the output of I forget the exact. So essentially show _𝗨𝗀𝗂𝗂𝗧 and then like optionally your Discord or indexer address, which could maybe just be helpful for following up or checking with people. So that was just wanted to give people a heads up here, and we'll be following up again in the Discord. Thanks.
Thank you. And now we're ready for Protocol Watch. We do have a fireside chat today, so looking forward to that in Protocol Watch. Juan, over to you.
Yep. Thanks, Anna. I'll try to keep it brief. We don't have a lot of updates, but I will be covering some important update that happened last week. So both from the contract side of things and core network subgraph side of things, there's no new updates since last index office hours. The changes that we will cover later, we already covered for contracts and core network subgraph. We'll try to keep a simple UX change for later. Then in regards to forum governance, there were some small updates in the stale allocations forum discussion and the allow multiple and delegation requests from delegator discussions. It's nothing super big, but it's a few extra discussions that were going around the forums. So if you want to check it out, it's there. And also, please, as always, if you want to participate in the discussions in the forums, feel free to do so. It's super appreciated and helps a ton. Important update that I wanted to mention about is that GIP 23 or 18, the initial one was 18, is currently live. It's been launched last week. Most of you probably already know about this, but just want to let you know that it is live. And what this entails is that you can now transfer the ownership of any subgraph. And the way that it works is by simply having NFTs to be the subgraphs themselves. So the owner of the NFT is the owner of the subgraph, and the owner of said NFT will be able to upgrade, so deploy new versions to, or publish new versions to the network for that specific subgraph. So yeah, you can use it as an NFT, as a regular NFT. You can transfer it in any way that you would transfer any NFT. This is an ERC 721 implementation. So yeah, that's the new important update. I don't know if anyone has like a few questions about it. If you do, I can probably answer them, or we can probably discuss them later if you want. Continuing to forum research, we have another few small comments in the contract creation tracking it's kind of like a proposal to add handlers for contract creation for the subgraph workflow. There has been some nice discussions going on there. Mostly it would be cool to have contract creation as a handler. So yeah, and I think Nelson G, who is the original poster, did try out some proof of concepts as to using non-address linked data sources. So any data source, so it's basically a data source that will index anything that just matches the topic 0 that he's describing. So yeah, cool discussions there. Then we go to the lending subgraph standard. Another small comment. I think Dave mentioned that he wasn't able to gather everyone on ETH Denver, but he's been discussing the standards with some people at Denver, so there's probably going to be some updates very soon for that particular proposal. So yeah, super cool to see those two discussions going forward. I don't know if anyone has any questions about maybe the subgraph NFT transfer ownership feature or something. Okay, I don't think so. It's pretty straightforward. You just have an NFT and you're the owner of the NFT, you're the owner of the subgraph. That's about it. Continuing with ongoing points of interest. As always, we would like to remind you that if you experience any subgraph failure that looks deterministic, but it's flagged as non-deterministic, you can go to issue 3059 on GraphNode, which is tracking all the variants of deterministic errors incorrectly categorized as non-deterministic. This greatly helps the GraphNode team in improving the deterministic aspects of the GraphNode. So, basically the most important part of the stack, which also always helps with making sure that the network will be able to support all of the use cases that we want to support. Going forward, the enzyme and network subgraph failure determinism issues. I think there's some updates there, Otavio. I don't know if you want to cover them.
You mean about the restart issue that
Yeah,
Alexis
exactly.
reported?
If I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, I think you found some way to reproduce one of the bugs, right?
Yeah. So one thing, I don't know if everyone knows about this, but on master, like it's not released yet, but we have a debug forking tool that Victor from LimeChain did it, which is super useful. And I was able to reproduce Alexis bug. So this is the tool. If anyone wants to, I think it's probably more target towards subgraph developers. But yeah, I've been able to reproduce it locally, and we actually saw some similar issues on our integration testing cluster. So I'm really focused on fixing this, and I think up until the end of the week, we probably will have a PR for this but yeah, I'm really focused on solving this because it's extremely weird, and we saw other occurrences on one of our integration clusters. So yeah.
Thanks, Otavio. I know Tiago's here as well. Do you have anything to share on the 3059 issue?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I've started this issue. We are tracking. We already have spotted the place where some errors are returned from the mappings in a non-deterministic fashion, but we've identified how we already identified how we can turn them into deterministic ones. In this case, is totally doable. We have halted the development of this issue for a moment while we work on a different issue. I'm not sure if this is the right time to talk about it, but yeah, we have but for the turning the handler not found function deterministic. Yeah, work has been started, but it's paused at the moment until we find a way to send transaction receipts to mappings. So yeah, this has been prioritized over this 35009 issue, if I don't recall. Yeah, but yeah, work has been started, but it's currently paused, but will be resumed shortly.
Thanks,
Cool.
Tiago. Did you have anything to add, Adam?
Yeah, I was just going to say. So I think in general with these, I don't know if we've covered and sort of discussed this before, but the way in which error handling generally works in GraphNode is that we sort of initially assume things are sort of non-deterministic, or that's sort of the base level assumption. And then it's sort of identifying things which are deterministic. So obviously a deterministic error is a bit different, like on the network, in terms of you can sort of close allocations, and that's sort of the, like, I guess, the end of indexing in indexing that subgraph. So that means that sometimes when new errors or edge cases get caught up, they will be sort of initially non-deterministic, and then the idea over time is that we make more and more things deterministic. So yeah, so that issue, like, I think was tracking a couple. So one of them, yeah, Chris, I think you highlighted that one of them's already been made deterministic in the most recent release, and so that, like, I think this was then going to be the function not found error, where we talked about how there was a bit of an evolution of how we wanted to like handle that. I think we probably don't want to just keep adding new issues of that kind to that, new errors of that kind to that issue, but certainly reporting them there for now is like it's a reasonable place to start. But then, like, move it, like, we probably break them out into their own issues, so the issues can be a bit sort of discrete and closed over time. But yeah, just want to give a bit of context there.
Awesome, thanks, Adam.
Cool. So next up, there's a proposal to require a valid POI on allocation open. We've discussed this in a few instances here, I think. The forum discussion has been a little bit stale. So if any of you guys have some ideas as to how to approach that, or maybe just feedback regarding, like, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea, please post it in the forum discussion. It improves the traceability of everything, and it makes like following up the proposal a lot better. So yeah, I think we had it on open discussion. I think we probably could bring it up in open discussion again, Chris. I don't know if today, but maybe for other index office hours. But yeah, just wanted to point it out. Cool. So next up, I think, Chris, you're going to be taking over, right, for the fireside chat?
Indeed. Thanks, Juan. Yeah, good protocol watch. Before we jump into the fireside, did anyone have any questions on Repo Watch, or has anyone tried either the 0.19.0 release on testnet? Again, just a reminder, that is not a production release yet, so you probably don't want to be using that in production. Or alternatively, has anyone tried 0.25.1 of GraphNode, which I believe is a production-ready release?
I think so. I don't know. Ottavio, was 25.1 production ready? I think so, right?
Hope said she tried 0.25.1, and it's good so far.
Yeah,
awesome.
No problems on my side either.
Yeah, the only thing we're investigating is the issue that Alexis opened. But yeah, it should be fine. And if something appears because of this issue, we might do another patch, but we'll see.
Awesome. Thanks, Ottavio. I'll just say that we have upgraded to the latest Aragon release and haven't seen any issues. That's been smooth.
Yeah, same here. Our Aragon release is up to the latest now. No issues so far.
Awesome. Thanks, Kai. Yeah, things are looking really good for Aragon now. I just can't wait until Aragon support comes to BSC and Polygon. All right. So next up, we have a fireside chat, and I'm honored to welcome Jace and Alec. I don't know if Alec's on the stage yet, but they have come to talk to us about a proposal in the forums to create a query analytics dashboard for indexers. So yeah, first of all, welcome, Jace. And do we have Alec yet?
I think Alec is actually my code monkey, so I think he's kind of hiding inside his cave, just like, you know, just like, you know, I want to talk in commits and codes, not really fan of meetings, but yeah, I'm here to talk about the proposal for the query analytics pipeline. I'm absolutely thrilled and humbled to be here. I was just an audience before. yeah, pretty excited to work with everyone here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This is certainly an important set of tooling for indexers, and I hope that today's chat raises awareness and also helps you kind of prioritize and spec the product to meet indexer needs as best as possible. So to kick off, Jace, could you, just introduce yourself and tell us briefly what your journey to crypto was, and then after that, how you came to find the graph?
Right. I work as a support engineer at Amazon for 3 years, and I've seen, I've gotten all the scars for like recovering, fixing databases, recovering failed clusters across different companies, so to speak. But crypto is new, and definitely that is why we're doing. So that's 𝗨𝗨𝗂𝗟𝗶, which is I'm trying to start, and because crypto is so new, we're trying to collaborate with Thinking Machines, who's done a lot of they've got 5 years of history of working with different clients across the Philippines, just to name a few, like the Philippine Airlines, and as well as like some financial institutions in Singapore, in creating data dashboards. And we saw this request for proposal from Ford, that Ford was like, hey, our community actually still needs those skills to create dashboards, and a particular dashboard that was put forth was a dashboard that works on query analytics. So we're pretty much new to Web3 and the graph, and I would love treat us as the guy who's doesn't know much about the graph but knows his stuff from Web2, and would like to take that journey with the graph when we saw the proposal.
Awesome. Well, we're certainly glad to be pulling more and more devs into the ecosystem. Could you, for the proposal that you've outlined in the forums, could you really highlight the indexer problem statement that you're looking to solve with this proposed solution?
Right. I think a zeroth order, like a question before even answering that, is just like, is there a problem to be solved? Which is like, so we're like, the first thing that I have in mind is just, do we actually have a problem that we're solving? It's just like, so in the proposal, there was some ideas for some, for example, you actually take the subgraphs and then check whether the subgraphs, there's some data in the subgraphs that you would like to solve and take. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering, but is there even a use case for such a subgraph? Maybe we'd love to hear from anyone here with the indexers, just like anyone trying to run anything they want to find out about the queries that they're currently ingesting.
Yeah, I mean, let's open it up if anybody is keen to answer that. I can say from our side, and maybe I could rephrase what you've said, Jason, and confirm with me if I've got this right or horribly wrong. But yeah, obviously, indexers receive queries in GraphQL, and GraphQL is really expressive. So, you could receive a query that costs many magnitudes more to answer than another one. And so giving indexers tools to understand the queries that they're receiving and serving and the cost impact of those queries is obviously helpful, because it helps indexers understand what kinds of workloads and questions consumers are interested in asking, and also which kinds of workloads to optimize for in terms of database indices and all sorts of other optimizations that can be done in the stack. I mean, am I getting that right, Jace?
That's absolutely right. The very first phase even of this project is actually gathering user stories with the indexers. We'll be setting up interviews with a few here that would like to share their stories with Qlog, and gathering that user stories to make sure that we're actually be able to create something useful. Like I said, treat us as someone that's like really new to the community. We just make pretty dashboards, but is that all? We do specialize in like creating like logical mappings and create like a really useful product at the end. So most of the work really is pretty much like 90% gathering user stories from everyone here for the next few more couple of months maybe, or even like depends on like how fast, like they say Web3 is really fast, so like really keen to work on this. But there you go. It's more of like taking these user stories for the first phase, really, from everyone.
Cool. Yeah, so you mentioned Qlog there, which for anyone who doesn't know, Qlog is a tool developed by Edge and Node. I'm sure someone will drop the link to the Qlog repo in the stage chat. And Qlog lets you essentially process logs that GraphNode has generated when it serves queries, and surface insights from those logs. So that's, to answer your question from the GraphOps perspective, Jace, that's really the tool that we've played with for this purpose. And, I think that it seems to be fairly good at its task, but obviously, we're not getting pretty dashboards out of that. I don't know if anyone else is keen to share what methodology or tooling that they've used to analyze incoming queries. Maybe Payne?
No, we've just been using Qlog for the entire duration of the testnet, and I think Sebastian also was using just the internal Postgres tools to figure out the latency of the queries, and maybe I think in some cases he managed to build some indexes that helped some subgraphs get a little bit faster indexing speeds. Not particularly useful for queries as far as I remember.
Thanks for sharing. My perception is that most indexers, if they are looking at this problem, they've used Qlog to do so. So maybe as a follow-up question to Qlog, Jace, how does Qlog fit into the solution that you're proposing? And if so, like how does everything fit together? And if not, why are you not using Qlog?
Yeah, we'll definitely use Qlog as one of the data sources, and we'd love to hear more from the graph about any other ideas for like what other kinds of data you would like to see there on the dashboard endpoint. Typically, a dashboard tool or an analytics tool in general, like the dashboard's like just the third component, right? There's three components. The first component will be like the data sources or the connectors to the data sources, where Qlog is an example. Qlog produces logs, which creates useful data, and the second component will be probably the database and the data processing stage, where you could now parse Qlog. For example, if you just want to take the dates, the interesting blocks, and then or like maybe grep something in there and try to cut the log and present that now into the dashboard, where you could actually visualize some performance issues or if there's anything happening there. And then once you have those data in the dashboard, maybe some of these the bonus is that you could actually perhaps maybe automate something. Like if your dashboard shows that there's something wrong with let's say at an event or some given time, you could automate some notifications, or you could even perhaps do an automatic recovery. But all this are just very hypothetical, which I acknowledge. So, but once we gather user stories, that will be those things that we'd like to know from the graph. So we posted a long form, which is very generic for now, but like 2 quality responses from active indexers would just really set us on the right track. And if there's anything from this fireside chat that like it's like there's just like, yep, can you confirm or disconfirm that something like this is useful? And then once we have that, I could actually just press the exit quietly button and just like exit quietly.
So a follow-up question then, just to help indexers get a feel for, the value of a tool like this. Imagine that an indexer is running this tool, and I can acknowledge that a lot of it is hypothetical at this point, but you must have an idea of some of the insights or processes that would run on top of this data. So if I'm an indexer and I'm running this tool, could you walk us through the user experience of actually using the tool, and what kind of insights as an indexer I might get from the tool, and how those insights might help me? You there, Jace?
Yes. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. So if I'm an indexer and I were running this tool, assuming that it was built, what are some of the insights that I can expect to get from the tool?
Oh yeah, I can give some example actually. Just give me a minute. Well, the insights will probably be we're not so sure yet. Like once the queries are coming in, we thought we'd actually ask the graph indexers for like what those actually are. Like, I'm not gonna pretend like that I have a specific query in mind. Like, just some examples. Like, I don't want to suggest something that's wrong and just invalidate myself. So I think I'd just say that I don't know for now. And which brings us back to like, do we even need this? So we really need to get some help from the indexers to answer that question in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. Understood. I mean, then maybe the thing to do is to kind of transition this from a fireside into more of an open discussion. Some of the other questions I wanted to ask were, focused on the impact of the tool, and what a kind of MVP might look like. But given that things are quite early stage, maybe we can get feedback from the wider indexer community on what this tool could look like, and how it would be valuable. I'll start by just saying that, I think this isn't a huge problem for indexers today, largely because the volume of queries that are coming in is low enough that even if a query comes in and costs 10 to 50 times more than another query to execute, because query loads are quite low, it's not like that expensive query is kind of pushing out other queries, right? It's not like it's using computational resource that would otherwise be consumed by, paying queries. So generally, I'd say that indexers are not hugely sensitive to optimizing their databases and caching infrastructure for particular types of queries. But I as an indexer that is kind of planning for the future and expecting a very significant ramp up in queries in the future, I think it would be super valuable to be able to identify queries that are coming in that are either legitimate and because of a lack of an index or something, are just taking very long to answer. And so the kind of insight that would come out of that is, hey, these queries are exerting a particularly high load on the system. Maybe you want to do something about that. It'd be awesome if the tool could even generate sample indices that could potentially make those queries faster. I think there are also other queries that would come in that you might identify as kind of like malicious queries, i.e. they're just designed to take really long. And, those kinds of queries you might want to like block using Agora cost models or something like that. And generally, you know, having this system plug into existing, you know, modular and open source tools for monitoring and alerting on infrastructure would be excellent. So, you know, if your solution fits into the Prometheus Grafana stack that, you know, all indexers are using, I think that would be fantastic for, you know, interoperability with other tools in the ecosystem. But I welcome comments and feedback from other indexers. I'm going to call on some if no one speaks. Hey, Vincent. If you're speaking, Vincent, we can't hear you. Cohen, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Okay, I can speak. If Con, you're muted if you're trying to speak.
What were your thoughts, Anna?
As you said, I'm also struggling to see the almost like a diagram of the flow to fully understand where this fits in. If you take a normal application, you expose metrics. Usually, you expose metrics to something like Prometheus or Grafana, to Prometheus or other similar tools, and then use something like Grafana or like Influx or whatever you're using to create dashboard and then visualize all of that data. Because there were conversations about using QLog as a data source, and because you also mentioned that it would somehow fit, might somehow fit with stuff like Prometheus and Grafana, I'm not clear where this fits in the stack, and whether it's duplication of functionality that already exists. It's not clear to me, and I'm wondering if that's where other people are. I'm realizing this is not helpful now.
No, I would similarly agree that like I don't feel like I have a clear picture. I mean, or maybe a different way to phrase it would be, you know, an indexer receives a GraphQL query, they serve that query. As a result of that, Graph node emits a log message, which, you know, contains information about that query. You know, traditionally speaking, that log message would then go into QLog for, you know, parsing and analysis. But yeah, what I'd like to understand is like, once that log message has been generated, how does it flow through the solution that you're proposing, and ultimately, you know, result in some kind of insight being generated and shown to the indexer? What does the life of that message look like as it flows through?
So it sounds
That's
like
also
that's open to the current design space. And sorry to talk over you, Jace. You want to go ahead?
go ahead for it, as this is a proposal. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's all within the design space here. So as indexers right now, you have a good opportunity to go into the forum and go into the Discord and say what your needs are here to help inform how this design looks. But it might be helpful just to talk about some of the setups that we have on the hosted service. The hosted service, as you guys know, is just an indexer, but a large scale indexer, and has had to deal with some of the query scale that the indexers may have to deal with in the future. And so the tooling may be ahead of what indexers are using and be more complex than what indexers need right now, but is a good way to inform the future. So on the hosted service, the logs for a query get sent out to a bucket where the logs are stored. And then 𝗨_logs is a tool that can then process those logs and give aggregate metrics on like how expensive a query is, how often that query comes in. And that tool is really vital to inform database optimization. So adding indexes to a database to make sure queries can be efficient, or blocking a query if it's maybe malicious or might as well be malicious because it's bringing the database down. So that 𝗨_logs tool is really important for like incident management. And then additionally, on the hosted service, we have dashboards that are just looking at the Postgres stats. So like what queries are coming in currently, what are the loads on the database, and using those two in tandem, we're able to do a lot of incident management and then also optimizations and scaling as we watch the query load and the different queries coming in. So I imagine as this query analytics pipeline gets built out, we can kind of automate a lot of those systems and have a dashboard that can be used for incident management and provide suggestions for indices, maybe provide cost model suggestions to increase the cost for a query that's causing excessive load on the database, and stuff like that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that context, Ford. Definitely helpful. And the hosted service is definitely the bigger indexer that we can all learn from. It sounds like, to Jace's question, of data sources, it sounds like for the hosted service that there are really two data sources. There's kind of like the 𝗨_log derived data, which is kind of like on the front end, data coming from GraphNode that's actually kind of parsing the queries, creating the SQL and serving them and so on. And then the other data source is actually Postgres itself, and kind of some more metrics focused on like the database backend, so to speak, and how well it is operating. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, those are, and then of course also the query nodes themselves. So there's been some recent discussion on the indexers channel around the query cache. So that's like a big part of managing query load. So I imagine that query cache might not be vital to you guys right now, but as load increases on the database, that's like a really important tool for helping alleviate some of that load, especially on queries that are just repeated heavily. So it's also important to monitor the query cache, and that is directly related to the load on the database. So those two things are important as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How does that fit into? Go ahead, Anna.
Sorry, Cohen just messaged on the stage chat. He sent a link to 𝗨𝗨𝗂𝗟, and that gives an example of what we could aim for. And it sounds like yeah, like a great option.
Yeah, that's super interesting. 𝗨𝗨𝗂𝗟, yeah, which is performance dashboard for Postgres. Coming back to you, Jace, is there any particular feedback or request for comment, or is there any particular feedback that you'd like to get from indexers now, or otherwise, calls for feedback on the forum?
Yeah, certainly we're not like coming into the graph community and just telling you guys like you guys need a dashboard. It's more of an open and two-way discussion of, hey, we've got this, we saw this idea and we could execute on it, given that you guys still need it. It's been 6 months since this has been proposed, and like I've heard from Anna, there's already indexers that are already pumping their own kind of data to Grafana and Prometheus, which we also proposed, which can lead to duplication of work. And I guess like I've said previously, like 90% of the work is really understanding like how our the indexers are actually already doing it, and if you find like an indexer or two is like, you know what, this approach really makes sense, and we should share it to other indexers, and then let's turn it to an actual project that every other indexers could replicate it now. And then, like, when we, I guess, go into incident management, which I'm very aware of from my previous work experience, it'll be like very easy to communicate across teams what's happening. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, I guess to wrap this back to, like, I guess there's a lot of second order questions and first order questions. Then there's like zeroth order questions. And the zeroth order question is like, what are the indexers' current workflows? What are the query scenarios look like? And those are the things that we need to get answered, perhaps this week or the next week. And then the zeroth order question will be like, the query analytics that are using, and we'll go from there, and then we'll eventually answer all those questions until we have, I guess, the final vision would be like a pretty dashboard for indexer officers to actually operate on their Postgres, make sure that it has the features that will be very critical to indexers.
Cool. Yeah. Just a random thought that I know Semiotic is working on an instrumented version of Postgres to inform some of their model generation work, and that might be an interesting data source as well for a pipeline like this.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, if I can get like a show of hands, like when as an indexer, you come, do you actually look for like a dashboard, like a homepage, like your own, not say, I guess, a command center dashboard? Do you actually look for something like that when you like come to office and open your web page? Even that just questions that a yes or a no for you, Chris. That will be interesting.
Gotta be honest, I personally don't, but the most I check in is to make sure that our indexer is running. So,
I've dropped a message in the stage chat, which indexers can react to, just to kind of solicit rapid fire feedback. For us, like, yes, I would say that there isn't a single dashboard, but there are maybe 3 or 4 dashboards. One kind of focused on host level information, our machines. Another one focused on indexing. Another one focused on querying. So yeah, we have a few dashboards. A number of those have evolved out of open source dashboards that have been available in the community. Certainly Payne's, the dashboards that he bundles in his Docker Compose setup come to mind. So yeah, I would say that, some kind of command center type thing is valuable, but I would say most indexers probably have something like that they've assembled inside of Grafana.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, in respect of time, like, I'm just thinking like maybe, Chris, we could come up with a way where we could actually take people's honest opinions on, like, not just being nice to Jace, like, yeah, maybe a dashboard's valuable, just like Kai did, was like outright no, we don't need it. There's perhaps a better approach to the problem, and we'd love to like do that instead. And if it's like easier to do, then let's do that. And that's where I'm coming from right now, like the attitude that we're approaching this RFP.
Yeah, I think that in terms of queries, which is ultimately what we are trying to serve, we haven't seen anything yet, basically. We are barely serving any volume right now, and that's going to hopefully multiply by 100, by 1,000, or by even more. So useful tooling for that, to understand the performance and to help improve the performance without just blindly throwing more money at it, could be useful. I think it is important in terms of how it gets done. What I'm realizing now is that besides my mainnet indexer, I also run additional RPCs and I run testing stuff on this and stuff like that. So I'm getting a lot more systems to keep an eye on. So for me, one of the main things that I'm looking right now is, okay, how can I keep an overview of all the different components? So for me, we basically everything in terms of monitoring centers around Grafana. So for this tool to generate useful output, it's probably for me personally, I would like to see it integrated into Grafana, for there to be the overview, to not have yet another space where I need to look at, or yet another dashboard. I mean, obviously, this might be its own page within Grafana, but still, it would be really cool if it sort of gets an almost easy, everything is green light that you can, like a sort of summary thing, and that you can go to the full details on a separate dashboard. I think live for indexers, as the network will grow, will only get increasingly more complicated. So the ease of having with one eye a view of everything is good or I need to take action, that would for me be one of the key assessment points for this tool to be useful.
Thanks for sharing that. Sorry, Jace, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. So the way we work is just like we're very reactive to feedback. So like you from that story, we could now come up with like an idea of like, hey, is it a web page with like shortcut URLs to like a snippet of logs that could be interesting, where you don't necessarily have to grep or go through and process those logs yourself manually in a terminal. Although I recognize a lot of people here would be comfortable doing that with experience, but we could make things easier.
Yeah, I think the other part with is that I would like this thing to run on my own system, integrate with the rest that I'm running. I've been running everything myself for performance reasons, for all kinds of reasons. So in terms of making a global public dashboard, probably not what I'm looking for. Something that I can run and integrate with my own systems, yes.
Yeah, I'd fully agree with Cohen there. I know we're running over, so I'll make this short. But fully agree that really this should integrate with Grafana, Prometheus, and Qlog. Any of the existing tools that indexers readily use. I definitely want to see the dashboard in Grafana. And so it feels like most of the missing piece is kind of that glue in the middle, right? Like how to get logs out of GraphNode, stream them into Qlog, leverage Qlog to generate insights, put those insights in some place where they could be consumed in Grafana.
We proposed using Terraform to just spin up a database of choice on the cloud and just feed that to another Grafana dashboard. But we'd love it to integrate more with the infrastructure so we'd like to, again, goes back to the user interviews where we'd actually listen to your infrastructure, because I reckon that or understand at least that not everyone is running their pipeline the same way exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Before I hand over to Anna to close, I'll say, Jace, I think what might be a great next step is if you can put together something like a Google form or a type form that asks all of the questions or collects the feedback that you're interested in getting from indexers, and then we can use indexer office hours and other community touch points to try and get that feedback.
I think that form already exists. Somebody posted a link to it in the stage chat.
It's the same form that Jace just posted as well, just now.
Perfect. Well, yeah, if you're an indexer, please do fill that out. This tooling, if we get it right, will be really helpful for all of us. Over
Just
to
on
you,
this
Anna.
subject. Okay, so just one thing on this subject. Based on Cohen's comments and also everything, like my experience outside of the decentralized work, and yeah, it sounds to me like this kind of tool we might not see the immediate value straight away, but as we scale, as our load scales, we will need it. It sounds to me. Also, in terms of that's it from me. Juan, do you have any comments?
Oops, I was muted. Not really. Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place, and I hope everyone stays safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Likewise. Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.